I ended up here out of, I guess I would preface it by saying out of desperation. I had had parathyroid surgery 2.5 years ago, and all 4 of mine had to be removed, and you can't live without a parathyroid. So they were trying to balance with medication, and it was getting to the place where they were saying, we just don't know what else to do for you. My quality of life had pretty much diminished to compensating for 15-minute increments throughout the day just so I could continue to work and have family. And I remember distinctly hearing Dr. Nikitow on the radio, and I was driving back from a practice visit up in Fort Collins. I have to travel a lot throughout the state, and I was thinking, this is getting dangerous. I don't have enough energy to keep driving and get myself back and forth. And I heard him on the radio. I turned off the road and called him right then and made the appointment. And I came in and had the evaluation, and he said, gosh, you've got so much going on. I don't know if I can help you. And he said, but let me review your x-rays and go over your records and see if there's something that perhaps we can do. So I made the next appointment, and he said, let's go for it. He said, you've got a lot going on. He said, but let's get all the other systems, because nothing was working. My adrenals were pretty much shut down. Every system that has to do with the spine and the nervous system, what all that Dr. Nikitow does, was not working properly. I wasn't even absorbing the medications that I was supposed to be on. So I finally had hope that I was going to have a quality of life, and we started with treatments. I still have several months to go, but I think the most telling is when my sister and I used to talk a lot on the phone. She's up in Montana, and our phone calls would last an hour or 2 at a time. Well, I was getting to the place that I could get through phone calls maybe 10 minutes at a time. That's all the energy I would have for that. So we had talked about 2 months ago now on the phone, and at the end of our conversation, after an hour that we had talked, she started crying, and she said, Nikki, I have my sister back. She said, the last time I talked to you, she said, I knew you were dying and you didn't have any hope left. There was no strength left in you. And then I went home to a wedding, and all my cousins and nieces and nephews were there, and my sisters, and I was actually asked to perform the ceremony, being the facilitator or the officiant of that. And when we were doing the rehearsal, my one cousin he was sitting at the bottom of the altar, and he just kept staring at me, and he kept following me around, and he finally just grabbed me and hugged me, and he said, Nikki, what happened to you? He said, I knew you wouldn't be here this year. He said, you look so incredibly different. He said, you're moving different, but he said, I knew you wouldn't be here this year. So I can't thank Dr. Nikitow in the treatment and his willingness to jump in and take my case. And of course, I have to do my part and continue to exercise and come for my treatments and pass the word on. And what he does is the whole body. And actually, from the x-rays and what he has determined, the parathyroid should never have been removed. It was something that had been missed after a couple of neck injuries and head injuries that I had had, or accidents that I had had. It had gotten missed, that part of my neck and along the spinal column where it was blocking or cutting off the blood and nervous supply to the parathyroid. So it was missed, and things happen. And the other thing that I like about Dr. Nikitow is not the medication. Let's give you one more medication. I had several cardiac events after the surgery, which meant medication, and I'm now decreasing those, and I'm off of one of those since my treatments. And I'd found a doctor in Denmark that hopefully would be able to just work with the parathyroid, but it wouldn't have been anything to do with the whole body like Dr. Nikitow does. And there was a couple of other places I had the subluxation, one across the heart, which puts you at risk for cardiac event, which I've already had. And I was going into the hospital. Oh, there was a while I was going in probably monthly, for my calcium levels would decrease or go down so low that I would have to go in and have IVs in the hospital, in the emergency room. And then sometimes I would be admitted to ICU just to get them regulated. So that can't ever come back, and like he's been very upfront with me, we'll never be able to replace the parathyroid, but we can get all the other systems working properly so that then they will help, take the overload of what without the parathyroid, and then get the calcium levels regulated with a supplement and another medication I'll probably always have to be on.
So how many years ago did you start to see him?
I just started in June.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yes. Yes. So he's
3/4 dead to this.
Yes.
Since June.
Yes.
So less than 3 months.
Less than 3 months. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, I have hope now. I mean, I didn't know. I mean, it was getting to the point too, as because it affects your memory and thinking cognitively, and of course, I mean, that's from the parathyroid, but everything else that was going on. So I was just like, oh my gosh, I'm not going to be able to keep my job. And without a job, I'm not going to be able to. I mean, it was just becoming this vicious cycle of how am I going to be able to compensate. And I was getting to the point with my work, I could go talk to the physicians, but then the documentation and keeping up with being creative and research and that just wasn't, I didn't have the energy to do it. And my brain wouldn't go there. I couldn't remember. But it is also creating in with me, since coming here, this whole philosophical conviction of traditional medicine and what we're missing.